Good evening friends, you are most welcome to Civil Affairs channel. Today we are going to discuss Social Anthropology by Maan IGNOU. Here we will discuss mane004 Gender and Society, and our topic is Gender Inclusive Globalization. Miles and Brewster, 1998 in Mears 2006, find that in the Philippines, female wage workers in white collar jobs and self employment are significantly more likely than those not employed to have obtained prenatal care and substantially more likely to have adopted a contraceptive method in the year following childbirth. Gender inclusive globalization with an understanding of the gender differentiated impacts of globalization, we now come to the issue of gender inclusive globalization. Ever since the concerns of negative impacts of globalization processes have been raised by social scientists and feminist researchers, there have been discussion and efforts in the direction of making globalization policies and processes gender inclusive. Let us understand what this means. As we know, globalization is deemed beneficial to a country because it is supposed to lead to economic growth resulting from a better allocation of resources in the world economy, exchange of knowledge, transfer of technologies, and a consequent increase in productivity, as well as the development of human and physical capital. With the expansion of domestic production, income opportunities as a whole generally increase, benefiting a large number of people. UN 2008. However, as we have seen in the last section, within the context of globalization, women can be winner or losers. Their multiple responsibilities and gender related constraints, such as a lack of access to productive inputs or resources, can mean that they are not able to seize the opportunities provided by trade expansion to the same degree as men. Moreover, the opportunities provided to men may have negative consequences for women, and they may even lose their livelihoods as a result of import competition. In order to promote a mutually supportive, high growth, low gender inequality scenario, it is well understood now that women's multiple roles, responsibilities, and limitations need to be taken into account in globalization policies and programs. UN 2008. The growing understanding in this issue has led to the emergence of the concept of gender mainstreaming. In July 1997, the United Nations Economic and Social Council (ECOSOC) defined the concept of gender mainstreaming as the process of assessing the implications for women and men of any planned action, including legislation, policies, or programs in any area and at all levels. It is a strategy for making the concerns and experience of women as well as of men an integral part of design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of policies and programs in all political, economic, and social spheres or societal spheres, so that women and men benefit equally and inequally, and inequality is not perpetuated. The ultimate goal of mainstreaming is to achieve gender equality. Thus, gender mainstreaming is not only about adding a women's component into an existing activity, gender sensitivity must be integral to all planning and implementation processes. Some of the ways for ensuring gender mainstreaming include the gender mainstreaming plan of sectoral policies, targeted interventions by the state to reduce gender inequalities, equal participation of women, especially at decision making levels of sectoral policies, and monitoring by women's organizations. UN 2008. Let us take the case of gender mainstreaming in sectoral policies. In developing countries, every sector needs policies which would increase employment opportunities for women in an unorganized sector because majority of poor unskilled women can primarily be occupied in this sector. Jhabwala and Sinha 2002 mentions that in India, forestry is a sector where women's employment can be increased manifold. They suggest that reforestation program of nursery growing, plantations and tending of plants as also collection, processing and sale of minor forest produce can be handed over to women groups. One calculation has shown that if nursery growing for the forestry department in Gujarat, West India could be done through women's groups, it would increase employment among 1 lakh women for 6 months. In the health sector, policies which would link informal health providers, especially midwives, with the formal health system would increase both employment and earnings of the health providers. Increasing microfinance schemes would increase employment of opportunities through livelihood development. Direct access to markets would increase employment opportunities as well as earnings. Training and skill development would also enhance productivity, earnings, and opportunities. Jhabwala and Sinha 2002. Another important way of gender mainstreaming is gender budgeting. Since the mid 1980s, a variety of gender budget initiatives have been undertaken with the purpose of rendering public budget gender equitable. It has been seen that in public spending and methods of raising revenue, there are inherent gender biases, and many of these biases appear to be commonly exacerbated by market liberalization policies. Ka Atai and Irturk 2004. The budget is an important tool in the hands of state for affirmative actions for improvement of gender relations through reduction of gender gap in the development process. It can help to reduce economic inequalities between men and women as well as between the rich and the poor. As we have discussed previously, reductions in social programs such as health and education due to structural adjustment policies have been disproportionately harmful for women and girls. Since social programs have a direct bearing on human capabilities, women have become more vulnerable due to these reductions. Gender budget initiatives can ensure public provisioning of social programs and potentially reduce women's vulnerabilities. A positive example from Indonesia in this direction is that during the Asian economic crisis of the late 1990s, which caused loss of employment among women in both formal and informal sectors, efforts were made in Indonesia to keep poor children, especially girl children, in a school through scholarships, half of which were allocated to girls. Women's participation at the level of decision making, planning, and implementation of development programs is also central to ensuring gender mainstreaming. This involves seeking out grassroots women's organizations and NGOs from small groups of producers and networks of small and medium sized entrepreneurs to gender activists and academics concerned with trade and development. Consultation and inclusion of this segment of civil society as key stakeholders is a necessary step towards ensuring the effective participation of women. UN 2008. Summary part in this unit of on globalization and gender. You have seen the complex relationship between gender inequalities and the economic liberalization policies that underpin globalization processes. On the one hand, globalization has provided numerous jobs for people in developing countries, led to improved standards of living due to greater access to products and services at lower prices, and enhanced transfer of technology for human benefit. On the other hand, benefits of globalization have not been uniformly distributed, leading to the widening of gap between the rich and the poor. In many cases, the condition of upskilled and asset poor people has worsened due to the impact of globalization. Women have also been both positively and negatively impacted. In some societies, existing gender biases in patriarchal societies have been aggravated, whereas in others, women have been able to challenge the traditional social norms due to improved employment opportunities. In any cases, however, female marginalization as a result of globalization cannot be denied. Not only has globalization led to an increased incidence of poverty among women, it has also made them more vulnerable due to declining state support program and greater informalization of female employment. The only way to minimize the negative impacts of globalization is to make the process of development planning and implementation, both at national and international level, more gender sensitive. Many developing countries and government may lack the resources and mechanism to protect those who have lost livelihoods in the context of globalization. However, gender mainstreaming in the sphere of policy making can be undertaken meaningfully. There is a shift in the current policy stance towards people centered and gender wise policies. Gender mainstreaming is now an important agenda in all development initiatives at international and national levels. Concerted efforts in this direction will lead to equitable and just development. Thank you very much.